All right. Welcome back to the Advice and Shit podcast. I know you doubted me. You thought she's not coming back for another couple of months. Don't worry, I also doubted myself because I'm recording this before the last episodes even come out because I got excited, had my research ready, and I want to talk about it, so I'm talking about it. Now, welcome back to the Advice and Shit podcast. Today, we are talking about the one and only Taylor Swift. We're talking about hating Taylor Swift to becoming a Swiftie, aka me. I'm definitely a Swiftie now. I was not for a very long time. And I started thinking, I always liked Taylor Swift's music. Like, I always thought her music was great. Is Taylor Swift a amazing vocalist like Ariana Grande, or Beyonce? How dare I not say Beyonce's name first? Is Taylor Swift's vocal range like that? Like Ariana Grande can sing, her vocal range is 4 octaves. That's pretty damn good. Is it like that? No. But Taylor Swift is a lyricist. She is a poet. Her lyrics are amazing. Amazing. And that was the reason why I liked her music. And in high school, when I didn't like Taylor Swift, I wasn't considered a Swiftie. I thought her music was very catchy and it was very good. I would say, well, I just don't like her personality. I don't know Taylor Swift. So how could I not like her personality? I don't know her. And having listened to the Red album, Taylor's version, and listened to the 10-minute version of All Too Well and cried for 3 days listening to that song on repeat, I realized that Taylor is a real lyricist and an amazing songwriter. Why have I just now started to appreciate her music? I've come to the conclusion. It's internalized misogyny. Now, if you will all get your drinks. Oh, crap. I almost knocked something over. If you all get your drinks. That's what we do on this podcast. I want you to have a drink in hand. Listening to some tea. We need a drink. Today, I have coffee. Leftover coffee that I forgot to finish drinking earlier. So we have microwaved it. So it is now hot. Because the tea is hot, even though we're drinking coffee. Okay. I didn't microwave it enough. It's a little cold. It's fine. I'm going to put it on this little hot pad thing. It's not a hot pad. It's like a hot tray that you put your cup on and then it starts heating it. I got it because it was something that said, I saw that it was really good for people with ADHD because they constantly forget about drinks. And if you're like working and you're hyper focused on something, you're kind of zoned in and you're not paying attention to everything going on around you, your drinks go cold, which happens to me all the fucking time. And if you have that, you can leave your hot drink on that thing and it'll stay hot the entire time that you're there and you're going to drink it. And I got it and I was like, this is a lifesaver. I can now stop drinking cold coffee unless I want it to be cold because it's cold brew. All right, so talking about Taylor Swift. Are you ready? Let's get down to it. So, if you're listening on Spotify or a podcast version, or you're watching it on YouTube, again, I never said who I was. I'm your host, as it is. If you want to find this on YouTube, if you look up the host name on Spotify or whatever, that is the YouTube channel name, _ as it is, _ It's a very, I want to have a YouTube channel, but at the same time be like anonymous, even though I'm pretty sure I've said my name before by accident. So it's just the YouTube name that I came up with, and it's what I went with. Because this is as it is. I post whatever I want, because that's just how it is. So, it's as it is. That's the YouTube channel name. Anyways, Taylor Swift. Let's get into the story. So, we have a lot of tabloids that judged Taylor Swift for who she dated and how many people she dated as well. And again, the point of today's podcast is internalized misogyny, and we'll get into that. But I'm setting the foundation, talking about tabloids, where that judge Taylor Swift for who she dated, how many people she dated. So here we have, you can't see because I'm dealing with a computer that's 10 years old and won't update. And until I get a better computer, visually, audibly, you'll just never see. But visually, you're just going to see my face because my notes are in my notebook. And the pictures are on the internet. But if you Google tabloids that hated on Taylor Swift, you will see the pictures that I'm looking at. So we have tabloids that are from Us, Star, In Touch, OK, US Weekly or something. I think I already said that. They talk about Taylor back when her hair, she straightened her hair and her hair was long. Her hair's long now. But I think this is during the Red era. Yeah. I remember her hair for different eras. This is during the Red era. The Us magazine says why she can't find love. And then they're saying two-timing Taylor on Star magazine. This is the Red era. And then I think this was before the Red era because Jake Gyllenhaal was a big portion of the Red album. So it was probably her album before that where it says Jake's cruel rebound and Taylor Swift's face is on there, you know. And then they have Taylor Swift. I can't tell what era this is, but it says secret wedding. What? And then we have Taylor. Oh God, I don't remember what era this was. 1989 maybe, where Bad Blood came out. I think, because it's not 22. Between where it has Kim and Taylor's face and it says it's war. So, you know, when you go into a grocery store, you see these tabloids and you're like, oh, interesting title. Because it's like clickbait. It's interesting titles to get your brain thinking. And who even fucking reads these? Who even buys these magazines? I read them while, you know, I'm waiting in line at the grocery store, but I don't buy them. So you just have these clickbaity titles that say, why can't she find love? And so then these ideas kind of seep into your brain that like, yeah, Taylor can't find love. And oh, she's two-timing. And oh, she had a secret wedding. What? And there's like, you know, doubt because, oh, it's a tabloid. I don't really believe it. But you're like, I mean, I don't believe it, but it's believable. And why is it believable? It's like, I wouldn't believe it because it's a tabloid, but it's slightly believable because it's Taylor Swift. Why is that? Why is that? Also, I think it's very important to call out that also when you Google tabloids that hated on Taylor Swift, you also get tabloids that talked about, is she pregnant? Because, you know, she's super skinny and she has a slight bump in this dress from where her organs are fucking at, because that's, you know, how women's bodies are. There are organs there, you know, where your uterus is. And that little bump where the organs are at can become bloated depending on what part of your reproductive cycle you're on. Because when that shit's full of blood, there's no baby yet, you look kind of bloated. So, yeah, you know, I think this is just a little side rant because some people really think women aren't supposed to have any sort of bump on their stomach. It's supposed to be completely straight, flat down there, including me until a year or 2 years into college. All throughout middle school, all throughout high school, I thought, I just need to lose weight. I just need to lose weight so then I can get rid of this bump. I don't know why. I just can't get this bump to go away. I feel like I have fat here, right here where my organs are fucking at. I feel like I have, you know, just fat here. I didn't. I I'm 5'3". I have a more curvy build. Like I got an ass and I got boobs. I got hips. That is the build that I genetically have. It's a good build to have for, this time frame, for this day and age. But, if it was the 90s where it was like heroin chic, like, skinny as a stick, I would be probably looked down upon for being curvy. And, those 90s ideals kind of bled into the early 2000s when I was really young and like probably made some sort of impression on me. But I was like, really thought that you have to be very flat stomached, and then tabloids like this that say, is she's pregnant? Who's the dad? When she's very skinny and she just has fucking organs, and we assume she's pregnant, and I think this is important to just talk about for a hot second, because in Taylor Swift's, I think it's Americana documentary on Netflix, she talks about how she had an eating disorder. Taylor Swift had an eating disorder because of comments like these, that people always questioned if she was fat or if she was pregnant, or, if she stopped, doing these things in her eating disorder. If she stopped, they'd be like, oh, she had a boob job because, she gained some weight back and was, becoming more of that body figure that she naturally should have. And I'm glad that she has overcome that, I'm so glad she overcame that. I think that's when my image of Taylor Swift kind of started to crack. Because remember, this is coming from someone who used to not be a Swiftie. When I heard that she was talking about how, I had an eating disorder, I'm saying it like that with the voice, because when I first heard it, I thought, oh, you have an eating disorder? Really? I bet you didn't. And then I was like, I'm being judgy. Let me just watch the documentary. And then I watched it and I was like, oh shit, because in the documentary they show pictures of her at the time where she was definitely going through this eating disorder, and I was like, oh fuck, you were like skinny. Oh, and I'm being a bitch because I'm saying, are you an eating disorder? Like, shit, So I just wanted to point that out. Now, why is this even relevant at all? Because we're going to go in the definition of misogyny and some examples of what that means. So, misogyny, the definition, a very old Greek definition of it was hating women. It's been updated to fit the modern standards of society, which is the dislike, contempt for, or ingrained prejudice against women. Okay? It's a form of sexism that keeps women at a lower social status than men, thus maintaining the societal roles of the patriarchy. So if we look back at what these tabloids were saying, where they're talking about, oh, she can't find love and she's two-timing and, oh, she's pregnant. These are all from, if you know a guy who's kind of an asshole when he talks about women, he's very disrespectful, and he thinks he's a gift to women, and women are kind of below him. If you know someone like that, I think we've all met someone like that. They're very clearly in our minds when we picture it. And you go back and you read these tabloids, they sound like they're from that kind of person that's like, oh, well, she's pregnant. That bump on her stomach, she's obviously pregnant, or she's fat. Because women don't have organs. We don't have bumps. God, It sounds like it's definitely not from the perspective of women, not from someone who understands women, like a man who understands women and their point of view. And if I was a man who hated women and just didn't like them and thought, ugh, they're below me, then if there was a girl who was dating a lot of people, then I'd be like, yeah, she's going around, she can't find love, blah, 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 blah. So even though these tabloids probably aren't being written by people who are hateful to women, they definitely ring with that tone of misogyny that is, you know, the dislike, contempt for, or ingrained prejudice against women. Like if you think about, you think about a guy who, because I was reading this comic that I really love called Lore Olympus, and in one of the episodes, they talk about how this guy, he is constantly cheating on his wife, and he has all these different affairs, and you're always thinking like, God, why do these women get with this guy? And then surprise, surprise, the guy dumps the girl and she's crying about it, and it's like, God, you knew this was coming. He's married. Why would you do that? That's so stupid of you. And you're harping on the woman, being like, why did you do this? You're so dumb. Why would you date him when he's married? You knew it was going to happen to you. This is so stupid of you. You're harping on the woman. And you're not saying, hey, fucktard over there, why do you keep cheating on your wife? Why do you keep being a little shit? We're not having that conversation. It's so easy to harp on the woman. Like if we think about the scandal that has happened, it feels like over and fucking over again, with Khloe Kardashian and Tristan Thompson. Is that his last name? Yes. When oh my God, what is her name? I didn't write it down because I think I was going to talk about this. Jordan Woods, that's her name. When Jordan Woods and Tristan kissed, Khloe went after Jordan Woods on the internet. And I think as a society, we've grown from when these tabloids were first released about Taylor Swift. I think we've tried, at least the internet has tried to be less misogynistic. But Khloe went after Jordan Woods saying, you're the reason my family broke up. No, bitch. No. Tristan is. Because he keeps cheating on you. That's why your family's broken up. That's why. Question the man who's treating you like shit and basically telling you that you're valued less than, instead of being like, woman who, my husband cheated on me with. Why'd you do that? Why aren't you questioning the man who is treating you like you are worthless? That is misogynistic. And the fact that the man's doing that to you is very misogynistic because he's valuing you less than him. Anyways, so tying misogyny in to the tabloids. The tabloids aren't just tabloids. These clickbaity titles kind of sink in to our thoughts as a society a little bit. If we think about Taylor's Reputation album, her Reputation album kind of called out how, misogyny, these tabloids, defined what her reputation was, and she really didn't have control over that. And because she was speaking out against how, the patriarchy has controlled and defined her reputation, everyone expected Reputation to flop. I think Taylor even said that at a concert for Reputation. She was saying that, her fans are the reason why this didn't flop. Everyone said it was going to. So, You can also think about when Taylor won the award for Women of the Decade. Woman of the Decade. She did an award. She talked again about misogyny. She brought it up. How it affected her, how it affected other people. And if you were a non-Swiftie, like me at the time, I went, I fucking roll. Like, you really dealt with that much. When in reality, she definitely has. She has gotten so much hate for just having a vagina. That's it. She's getting treated differently because she has a vagina. Because if you had a penis and you were dating multiple people, were an amazing lyricist, was very successful, called out somebody for lying on your name, literally nothing would be said against you. You would have so much respect and hype, which I'll tie that into our last episode where we talked about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case. I'll tie it in a little bit. I think because Johnny Depp is getting a lot of support on the internet, which I think is good, because I think it's a good conversation to have, that men are victims too. They tend to not be as frequent as victims, but they still are victims. And Amber Heard's one of her psychologist expert tried to talk around that men weren't really victims in heterosexual relationships. And men can be victims. And that's a good conversation to have. But at the same time, if we think about it, even when Amber Heard came out and said that she was a victim, did she get that much support? No. I think a lot of women don't, because there's still misogyny at play in the patriarchy, whereas Johnny Depp came out as a victim, which is good. That is good. But I think it may be important to note that him getting so much support may have misogyny at play. Not like him getting support is a bad thing. It's definitely not. He definitely should be getting support. But the stark difference in the amount of support between when a man comes out as a victim and when a woman comes out as a victim, that difference, which the victims do not have control over, but that difference in support is another example of misogyny. Okay. So, now, we're going to go through an article. We're going to go through part of an article. It's on LELLE.com. It's called Taylor Swift's Feuds, or people who had beef with Taylor Swift. It's also Taylor Swift anti-squad members. Trying to get my computer to load because she old. She an oldie. Come on, sweetie. Well, while my computer's loading, let me get some sweet, sweet coffee. Just kidding. I'm not gonna, drink straight sugar. I know some people that do. They have like a drop. Ooh. I'm so sorry. I knocked my mic with my mug. My bad. All right. Here we go. So, let's start off by talking about Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. I think that's their names. Okay. So, what happened? What's their beef with Taylor Swift? All right. During the Golden Globes, host Fey, it jumped, and I don't appreciate that. I don't want to read about that. I'm trying to read something else. Thank you. computer. Why the fuck did you do that? It's upsetting. Okay, here we go. Here we go. If it'll load. I'm so sorry. This is so embarrassing. And I don't have the computer power, because it's old, to edit this out. So this is embarrassing. Here we are. This is 2013, January of 2013 through January of 2014, because it takes time to, like, you know, do magazines and stuff. Okay, so during the Golden Globes, hosts Faye and Palmer made a joke about Swift's constant dating. She had just split from Harry Styles at the time. You know what, Taylor Swift? You stay away from Michael J. Fox's son, Faye tells the crowd. Amy Poehler responds that maybe Swift should go for it. Faye objects. No, she needs some time to learn about herself. Now, in a sense, yeah, I think you should definitely spend time being single and learn about yourself, you know, and really know who you are as a person and not put your own self-worth and definition of yourself into a relationship with a guy. That's very true. But also, you're not Taylor's, like, mom. She didn't ask. And you did this bit in front of, you know, everybody. And that's embarrassing. That's not funny. You know, you don't really know Taylor Swift. She may not be putting her whole personality and her whole self-worth into these relationships. She may be like a fully functioning, well-developed person who's very mature and is just trying to find a partner. And you're saying because she's realized the people that she was dating weren't for her, they weren't the partner she was looking for, or they broke up, means that she's, you know, doesn't know about herself. So, in Swift's April 2013 Vanity Fair profile, she discussed how she felt about that joke. You know, Katie Couric is one of my favorite people because she said to me she heard a quote that she loved that said, "There's a special place in hell for women who don't help other women." We're going to come back to that quote because misogyny is going to help other women to find a new way to attack Taylor Swift without pointing out boyfriends. So Faye and Poehler were asked about their reaction. They both don't get why she didn't shake it off. Faye at Entertainment Tonight on March 5th. I did not see that one coming. It was a joke, and it was a lighthearted joke, and it's a shame that she didn't take it in the crazy aunt spirit that it was intended. Do you have a relationship with Taylor Swift? Do you have a friendship with her? If you don't, how would she know that? And Poehler to the Hollywood Reporter on March 5th said, "Oh, I feel bad if she was upset. I'm a feminist and she is young and a talented girl. That being said, I do agree that I'm going to hell, but for other reasons, mostly boring tax stuff." Again, making it a joke. I like these two comedians. Do not get me wrong. I like these two comedians. At the 2014 Golden Globes, Faye turns the whole thing into a joke again, saying, "I just want to say congratulations again to my friend Amy Poehler. I love you, and there's a special place in hell for you." I think they tried to make it like a lighthearted joke, like, oh, it's not that big of a deal or whatever. But, like, I mean, it feeds into the joke that, like, we're giving women shit. Don't do that for men. We don't do that. You know, and then we're going to talk about Kanye West. We know about how he went up on stage and he said that Beyonce had the best video of all time and Taylor should not have won. We all know that. And I mean, that Beyonce is Beyonce, let's be honest. But also, like, You didn't need to do that, Kanye. You didn't have to do that. You know, and Kanye does say, he's like, I was just ashamed my hurt caused someone else's hurt. I don't try to justify it because I was just wrong. I need to, after this, just take some time off and just analyze how I'm going to make it through the rest of my life, how I'm going to improve. So he did feel bad that he did that, which is good because, you know, that wasn't right. And he says that he needed to think about how he was going to improve. And then he writes Famous, where he says that I made that bitch famous. Basically insinuating that I live by a fire department. That's why you may be hearing a fire truck in the background. Saying that I think me and Taylor might still have sex. I think that's weird. Mostly because he was married. And I think that's a weird thing to say. But he said, I made that bitch famous. He's basically taking all ownership of the fact that she is successful because of what he did during the VMAs. When he went up to say, you know, Beyonce had the best music video of all time. He's saying he is the reason that she's famous. All of her hard work, all of her talent as a lyricist. Forget that. Forget that. Forget the fan base that supported Taylor Swift so much that she won a VMA over Beyonce. Forget that. Kanye earns all the credit. He owns all the credit for making Taylor Swift famous. That's what that lyric means. And that is extremely insulting. Extremely insulting because it values her and her hard work as less than him. Which Kanye said before he thought he was like a god. That was a couple years ago. Called himself Yeezus. And he moved away from that. I don't know if he was still in that mindset when he wrote Famous, but it's very misogynistic to claim someone's value of their hard work and say, that's all me. I just did one thing, whereas they did 5,000 things to earn this. But my one effort compared to their 5,000 efforts is the reason it was successful. My one thing is more valuable than anything they could have done. That's pinning women lower than men. That's misogynistic. And so going back to the quote about how we're pinning women against one another, right? Not the quote that said that. There's a special place in hell for women who don't support other women. That comes back and bites Taylor Swift in the ass. Because then, you know, I think as a society, we realized, man, it's not, you know, it's time to be a feminist because it was trending and companies used it a lot because it was trending and popular in like pop culture to be a feminist. So then we're going through and deciding if someone's a feminist enough. Are you women supporting women enough? Are you doing that enough? Are you, in fact, enough? And if you ask someone that, the answer is always no. For society standards, the answer is always no. You're never enough. You're never making enough money. You're never beautiful enough. Your body figure's never enough. You're never enough. Never enough, never, never. From the Greatest Showman. Just think of that song. That's you. That's everybody. That is what misogyny, a new face of misogyny that came up was, you're not enough of a feminist. You're not fighting hard enough against misogyny. And that is in itself is misogynistic, because women aren't enough. That's the line. By saying you're not enough of a feminist, you're not enough of a woman, you're not valued enough. Your efforts, not enough. So I think it's very interesting because instead of the Kanye Taylor drama staying as Kanye Taylor drama, where he's basically talking about he wants to have sex with Taylor Swift and, you know, taking ownership of all of her hard work and success, which is what the whole conversation was and should have been. It turned into a women versus women, Kim Kardashian versus Taylor Swift, who's a snake, who's lying, because it's okay to pin women against other women. We've realized that maybe we shouldn't pin men against women in a power struggle, you know, where a man takes ownership of another woman's of her value and worth and credit, but we can pin other women against each other. And that's basically what it turned into. And that was like the final thing that ruined Taylor Swift's reputation, was she dates a lot of boys, she can't find love, and now she claims to be a fake feminist. She's fighting against, she's not supporting other women enough, and she's a liar. And so she became the snake for her Reputation album. So if we go into what happened with, let's go to Katy Perry. What happened with Katy Perry? Sorry, that's the sound of me scrolling. Because I think that was the earliest example of someone saying women not supporting other women, besides the original quote. So, Katy Perry. So it says, Swift and Perry used to be, this was in 2012, that's when it started. Swift and Perry used to be friends, while neither had explicitly said what exactly happened. They both dated John Mayer in 2010 for Taylor Swift, in 2012 for Perry, which likely created some tension. So, this is the thing, is that this was what kind of turned it from Taylor Swift dating a bunch of dudes to Taylor Swift not supporting other women, because there was a crossover where Katy Perry took Taylor Swift's dancers from her tour, signed them out from underneath her, and when Taylor Swift talked about what killed their friendship, she said that, or in 2014, Swift explained to Rolling Stone why taking the dancers killed their friendship. Swift said, "For years, I was never sure if we were friends or not." Swift said to the frenemy widely speculated to be Perry. "She would come up to me at award shows and say something and walk away, and I would think, are we friends, or did she just give me the harshest insult of my life? Then she did something so horrible. I was like, oh, we're just straight up enemies. And it wasn't even about a guy. It had to do with business. She basically tried to sabotage an entire arena tour. She tried to hire a bunch of people out from under me. And I'm surprisingly unconfrontational. You would not believe how much I hate conflict. So now I have to avoid her. It's awkward and I don't like it." When this originally happened, because, articles take a while to go through publishing and everything and editing, it was said that the reason they stopped being friends was because Katy Perry dated John Mayer, because it was about a boy. That's why they stopped being friends. Oh, Taylor Swift couldn't dare have a friend date one of her exes because she's so boy crazy that, that's why. And then Taylor cleared it up and said it wasn't about a boy. It wasn't about a guy. They're not boys. They're men. It wasn't about a guy. It had to do with business because she's a good businesswoman. So she got a doctorate given to her for business. And I'm jealous because I'm trying to get my doctorate in chemistry. And I actually have to do the work. And after this, Katy Perry said, "Watch out for the Regina George and sleep in sheep's clothing," trying to insinuate that, no, this wasn't about dancers. This was about a boy. This was about a guy. This was about Katy Perry dating the guy. Like, basically saying that's not true. That's not what that's not what we stopped being friends. It wasn't because I took her dancers, which she did do. It was about something else. But Katy Perry never said what it was, which I think is really pretty bad. And then Taylor Swift's music, because she's writing from the heart, you know. The album Red was very much about breakups. Taylor Swift got a lot of hate, being like, "Oh, you know, you date so many guys." And then she releases Bad Blood for her 1989 album, and then it's like, "Oh, well, you're hating on other women. You're tearing down other women." And Katy Perry said, "Finding it ironic to parade the pit women against other women argument about as one unmeasurably capitalizes on the takedown of a woman." So that argument about there's a special place in hell for women who don't help other women came back and bit Taylor Swift in the ass. I think it's because also we have to think about the age difference between Katy Perry and Taylor Swift at this point, right? Because 22 came out when Taylor Swift was 22. 1989 was after 22, so I think she was like 24, around my age. You know, if I had a friend, someone who I was like, I don't really know if we're friends or not, you know, because you're saying, I think we're friends because we're friendly, but you're saying these things that I'm like, that could be really fucking rude. I don't know if we're friends. And then you take my dancers from me in the middle of a tour. Yeah, I would be fucking pissed. I would think, yeah, no, we're not friends. You suck. You know, like, I would definitely be very upset about that. I'd be very angry about that. And Taylor never said who it was. Katy Perry named herself on Twitter about it. And Katy Perry is older than Taylor Swift. She should be more mature than Taylor Swift and should just move on or apologize to Taylor about what happened, you know. I think the misogynistic societies twisted it, and Katy Perry's tweets twisted it to, oh, she's hating other women because of a guy, and that was in fact not the case. Like, if you think about it from Taylor's perspective, yeah, I'd be fucking pissed too. Like, I would be mad. I don't know. That's just my opinion on it. And, you know, now they're good. Oh, and then Katy Perry gave Taylor Swift shit, basically, for not talking about the presidential campaign, right? She's like, you know, not speaking up. Oh, this is what Katy Perry said. I don't think you have to shout it, your political views, from the rooftops, she says, but I think you have to stand for something. And if you're not standing for anything, you're really just serving yourself, period. End of story. Which, I mean, like, doesn't everybody do things for themselves? They make choices based off of who they are and what they want out of life. You know, like this agenda that everybody has to, you know, state their political view. I remember growing up, nobody knew each other's political views, and that was fine. And even if they had opposing political views, it was like A-okay. And now it's turned into this hard line of, if you don't have the same political view as me, we can't even be friends. And I could see if you're a businesswoman like Taylor Swift being like, I'm going to take a step back. Now, for the 2020 election, Taylor Swift said that she, you know, cared less about her reputation because it was already destroyed. You know, she came out with the Reputation album. She's like, my reputation has already been ruined. So, fuck it. I'll say my opinion. But she never said her opinion on anything because she was trying to save her reputation that was constantly being redefined by choices that she didn't even have a say in, or by the comments of others. So, I don't think serving yourself is a terrible thing. I don't think that's bad. Everybody wants to do that. And I think this dark horse that Katy Perry had about if you're not standing for something, you're really just serving yourself. I stand for a lot of things, but I do stand for myself because I gotta live. You know, like, I think that's a really weird way to think about it, because also both of you write your music based off of your own personal experiences, not off of your, you know, views and what you stand for. So aren't you writing your music to get your side of the story out there? Isn't that really serving yourself? Because you both do that. But whatever. But now they're on good terms. So that's good. Now they're on good terms. Now, the last celebrity we're going to talk about that has beef with Taylor Swift is Demi Lovato, because I think this is still ongoing. So, Demi Lovato and Selena Gomez used to be like I don't know if the media overhyped their friendship and they weren't really best friends. They were on Barney and Friends together. I don't know if they were on Best Friends in that show. They were on Disney Channel together. They did... What was it called? The Princess Protection Program. That's what it is. Together. And so this article doesn't really talk about how that may have caused a rift between Taylor Swift and Demi Lovato, because Selena Gomez became like best friends with Taylor Swift and stopped hanging out with Demi Lovato. And there was some beef because of that. But this article thinks that the peak of the drama was in 2016. And the New York Supreme Court rules that Kesha has to stay under her contract with Dr. Luke. The producer, she claims, emotionally and sexually abused her. Many women in the music industry came out and said that this was wrong. Lovato is one of them. Swift is not. So again, this is during the time when Taylor Swift did not give her opinion on anything. She moved in the background. She moved in silence. She moved in the background, kind of like a queen. But she didn't speak up against this or about this. Which also, I feel like a lot of people were talking about it, so it's not like it was going to go unnoticed. But Taylor Swift didn't talk about this. Now, she probably would talk about it because she is like, fuck, my reputation's already ruined. I'll say what's on my mind. And she's been very open about how she used to not give any opinion because she was so afraid of ruining her reputation. But anyways, the article says that this bugs Lovato, who seemingly calls out the quote-unquote feminist Swift on her silence. Demi Lovato posted, I'm also ready for self-proclaimed feminists to start speaking out or taking action for women's rights. And then she like replies to herself several times saying, women empowerment is tweeting at 2:30 a.m. knowing the consequences of these tweets and not giving a single fuck, laughing face. Which I think that tweet is very look at me, I'm doing the most sort of thing. And I think there could be backlash to tweeting things about women empowerment, of course, but also a lot of people in like the internet and social networks were on Kesha's side and didn't agree with like the court. So you wouldn't really face that much backlash. So it wasn't that risky. Also, it's Twitter. It's Twitter. Twitter is not a real thing. What is the worst that could happen to you on Twitter? Probably could get cyberbullied. And that's a serious thing. That would suck. But also, delete the app, log out. You know, it's not the same as going and like, you know, standing on a soapbox and talking about it in the street, where you could have someone who's really doesn't like what you have to say and, you know, maybe come and attacks you in person. But again, you also have to remember that like people talk a lot, way more shit on the internet than they do in person, because it's easier to say something through a screen when you don't have to see a person, and it's harder to say things in face to face, which I think is one of Taylor Swift's songs. And like, you need to calm down. What is it? It's like, if you say it in the streets, that's a knockout. But if you say it in a tweet, that's a cop-out. I mean, hello, right here. Demi Lovato replies to themselves again. I just remembered that I was using the wrong pronouns. My bad. Please excuse me. I'm so sorry. Please excuse me. Women empowerment is leading other women to make actual changes in our society. That tweet itself is good, but also difficult to follow through on, because leading other women to make actual changes in our society, women don't typically hold the power, which is why there is the struggle in the first place. So maybe women empowerment is leading other men to make actual changes in our society to benefit women. Because since men typically own all the power, if we change their mindsets, maybe things will actually fucking happen. That's just my opinion. They reply to themselves again saying, women empowerment is taking action now, not when it's convenient. It's true. Women empowerment is using your voice to help the voiceless women be heard. That is true. Women empowerment is speaking up for other women even when it's something uncomfortable to speak up about. True. These are all good statements. I don't know why Demi Lovato went on a tirade at, again, 2:30 in the morning, replying to themselves several times. Seems like there's some sort of anger towards somebody. So then Taylor Swift makes a $250,000 donation to Kesha shortly after for legal costs. And this does not impress Demi Lovato, who tweets a response, take something to Capitol Hill or actually speak out about something, and then I'll be impressed. Demi, honey, I don't think Taylor Swift gave $250,000 to Kesha for legal fees to impress you. I don't think that was the fucking point. So again, this is pinning women against other women. And I think some people were like, yeah, Taylor Swift, you're not doing enough. You're not saying enough. But I think a lot of people kind of were like, Demi, the fuck? Like, did you donate money to Kesha? No, you just wrote some tweets. Which, in a sense, is still comparing women to the other women, which isn't good. Like, and saying that your efforts aren't good enough, because it's exactly what Demi Lovato is doing, is saying that your efforts aren't enough, you're not feminist enough, which again is still misogynistic. So, and I think we're going to dive more into these quotes from Demi Lovato next week, because next week we are talking about Demi Lovato. We are talking about the fall of Demi Lovato. We're going to talk about how you are responsible for your own choices. Ta-da! That is the end of today's podcast. I hope you learned something. Oh, I didn't talk about how we can use this in our own lives. Basically, analyze your own interactions and like your own thought processes. You know, like, am I, by thinking this about another woman or about myself, am I thinking about this from the standpoint of like my own opinions, or am I thinking about this from like a slightly internalized misogynistic lens? And that's not how I really feel about it. You know, think for yourself. You know, think back to, you know, if someone is telling you you're not doing enough as a feminist, you know, think, am I really not doing enough as a feminist? Or does that person have some sort of internalized misogyny where no matter what women do, it's never enough? Never enough, never, never, never enough. Gonna end on that. On The Greatest Showman. Great movie, great musical. And I will see you next week when we talk about the fall of Demi Lovato. Okay. Bye, guys. Woo!